Hello and how you doing, and welcome back to Two Jagoffs. I am your host, Austin Cairns, and we are right here in Point Park University's Media Hub. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest on the podcast because not only is he one of my fellow broadcaster colleagues over at 880 Wrestling, he just so happens to be the first ever Cardinals fan that I actually had on this podcast. You know I'm a Cardinals fan, and nobody else in Pittsburgh really likes them, so I'm glad to announce that our guest is one. He also happens to be the most professional broadcaster in the league today. Please welcome the one and only professional Paul Michaels. Paul, it's great to see you.
Thank you for having me, Austin. You know, you would think that with me being a Cardinals fan and have that distinction of bringing on a fellow Cardinals fan, It wouldn't have taken you so long to get me here.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was going through the old episodes and I noticed that I had Eamon on, I had Toddy on, even though I'm not allowed to say his name anymore, but I've had Eamon on, I've had Toddy on, and I thought I got all the broadcasters. I thought I got them all that I've worked with, but I forgot about you. I'm sorry, Paul. I'm sorry. We only call one match a night every other week. You know what I mean?
It happens. I know sometimes when I go back and read the cage match recaps of the 880 shows, there's oftentimes I'm just not listed as a commentator at all for some reason. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. It's very hit or miss as to whether I get included on cage match or not. I don't know who does that, but if you're
am I on cage match? I've never looked.
Yeah, you're there every single time. I think
sweet.
Even when you're not there, they list you.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, sometimes I'm there, sometimes I'm not. I don't know. So whoever's doing cage match, I do exist.
He does exist. He's professional. I mean, you're not really professional today. I want to get on you because you don't have the tie. I mean,
what is this?
I think we switched the tires today. What happened? Usually I'm in the hoodie and jeans. Usually you're in the tie. We switched. What happened?
I didn't expect this. I've seen some other episodes. I feel like you have a much more casual look, and that's energy that I tried to match. And now I feel like I'm underdressed for the occasion. But the good news is that a true professional always comes prepared.
Oh, you do? Oh, he does have it. Okay.
Okay. We're going to have the great equalizer here.
There we go.
And we're doing our best.
So it is a clip-on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice.
It is.
See, I can't even hate on you because you have the Cardinals hoodie on. It's like a double. This is like a double standard here. I can't rip on you with the Cardinals hoodie on. Damn it. I tried. Well, the reason why I'm dressed up today is because I got looped into doing our senior show for Pioneer Sideline tonight. So I will be heading over to the studio right after this episode. So this is now 2 weeks in a row that I'm randomly wearing half a suit. So that is why I'm dressed like this, Paul. So I do apologize. I wasn't trying to one-up you at all, but I think you take the cake now with this fit right here. I mean, this right here is literally Austin Cairns to a T. You got the tie, you got the Cardinals hoodie, you got the sneakers. I love it.
Yeah, I'm sure you can respect this.
I can respect it. No, I can't even hate. I'm genuinely blown away for once. But Paul, obviously me and you have been calling several matches over the last few months with 880 Wrestling. You're now part of the broadcasting team there. But you actually started your wrestling broadcasting journey with Enjoy Wrestling, doing Taco Mania. So I know you're still relatively new here on the independent scene, but do you mind telling me what that opportunity was and how it came about to get into the wrestling scene?
Yeah, that's true. So the Taco Mania Superfest that happened back in August of last year, it was really a true story, I think, of just completely falling upwards. So Kurt Hackemer, who is one of the owners of Enjoy Wrestling, I work with him in my day job. So in my corporate life, I work with him. I'd known for quite some time that he was one of the co-owners of a wrestling company. We've had discussions at work events, off-site events, things like that, just about wrestling. He knew that I had a lifelong love of professional wrestling. He knew that I had sports broadcasting experience as well. So there were just numerous times where, I always told him, if there's ever anything I can do, if there's any way that you think that I can help, let me know. I'd love to get involved however I can. And, he just kind of took that under advisement. And then it was 3 days before Taco Mania Superfest. So it was the Wednesday before. Taco Mania was on a Saturday. And for our company that we work our day jobs in, we had done a company pirate game. So the whole company had gone to the pirate game, and the pirate game lit out a little bit early. People still needed to wait for their kids to get out of school or whatnot. So we had gone over to Southern Tier Brewing, just to hang out, maybe have, a little extra cap on there and just kind of see what happens. And Kurt called me over and was like, hey, what are you doing Saturday? And I know like we have like social channels at work and things, and he's always kind of promoted his events to coworkers, saying, my wrestling company's doing this, and I immediately interpreted it as, come hang out, Taco Mania, like let's let it happen and see what happens. And I was like, at the time, my wife that evening was hosting the neighborhood book club.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like needing to be home in the evening, for our daughter, because all the ladies from book club were going to be there. And I knew Taco Mania was in the afternoon, and I was like, I have an evening commitment, but I'll be free in the afternoon. What's up? And he just said, do you think you'd like to do commentary? And again, this is just, I had 3 days notice, and it was one of those things where it's been a lifelong dream of mine to get involved in pro wrestling in any capacity, especially on commentary. So I immediately texted her and I was like, hey, as long as I'm home before book club starts, like, do you have any issue with me doing commentary for Taco Mania? And my wife, who is extremely supportive of everything I do in wrestling and beyond, she knew what it meant to me and immediately was just like, yes, go for it. And I let Kurt know. And then it was just a grueling 3-day period. I went back and watched the entire previous year of Enjoy stuff to familiarize myself with the roster members, the stories going around. Like I wasn't clueless to what was going on there, but I really took a very deep dive into getting involved with that.
That's great. And then obviously you called Taco Mania for the first time, and I actually happened to be there in attendance for once, just kind of hanging out with Carl, because we always used to go to all the Taco Mania shows just to see what it was all about. And I remember seeing you there, and it was you and Toddy that night,
Correct.
Right? It was you and Toddy that night. What did you take away from that night? How did you enjoy it?
So I had an absolute blast. It was very weird though at the time to kind of to go into that locker room having done nothing in wrestling at all. Like again, I had the sports broadcasting experience. I'd been doing high school sports for a number of years, but it was hard to shake the feeling like I just didn't belong in there. Not as a negative thing about any of the roster members or anything like that, but it was no one made me feel unwelcome. It was just very, like, it was almost being starstruck of just the industry as a whole, and thinking about like, I have no business being in a professional wrestling locker room. Like and this is a huge event. There's 2,000 people here. I don't know what I'm doing. Toddy was awesome though. And Toddy was great in, kind of sitting down. I think Toddy was maybe a little bit surprised at how prepared I was. Like I came to the event with a stapled printout of the rundown of every match, basically like who trained everybody, what the storylines were, if there were notable matches that they had in the past year, like leading up to those. And, I basically had a full prep sheet. And I remember Toddy going, like, where did you get that? I need one of those. And I was like, oh, sorry, I just printed it. I just made it and printed it at home. I didn't know. Where Toddy thought they were handouts at the time.
Wow.
And it was just something that I had done. But I remember just kind of getting ready to go on. And, we went through the matches very similarly to we do in the production meetings for 880. And then right before we go on, we're getting ready to go live. And Toddy looks at me and he says, so what's your commentary name? And I just kind of looked at Toddy and was like, huh? Like what do you mean? Like, I have a name, but I was so focused in on doing the prep, knowing all the members of the roster and everything. I never even thought about how I wanted to present myself. So I did do the entirety of Taco Mania Superfest under my real name, which is not Paul Michaels. And so that's if you have a Patreon subscription to Enjoy Wrestling, you can dox me a little bit. A couple of those matches are up now, and you can find out what the real name is behind Paul Michaels.
Well, I know what the real name of Paul Michaels is, but I will not say because I do not want you being doxxed. But I do want to ask, since we are peeling back the curtain a little bit, where did the name Professional Paul Michaels come from?
So there are several layers to this.
Okay.
So Paul Michaels is somewhat of a juxtaposition of my first name and my middle name. So my middle name is Paul. My first name is Michael. So flipping those. into Paul Michaels was something that made sense. As a longtime broadcaster and broadcasting student, I wanted the last name Michaels also as a tribute to Al Michaels, who is a childhood hero of mine, an absolute legend in broadcasting in football and beyond. And I think so much of what I do is just inspired by Al Michaels. I also liked the idea of flipping the names because it also reminds me of my all-time favorite professional wrestler, Bryan Danielson, who some of the best work of his career was done under a pseudonym where he flipped his first and last name into Daniel Bryan with WWE. So those are kind of the three layers to Paul Michaels. And at the time, I was just Paul Michaels. And then a couple weeks in at 880, I was really starting to kind of not struggle with, but I was really starting to give more thought into the idea of standing out. Because to me, I think, how you present yourself is such a big part of the wrestling business. And at the time, you were dressing probably more similarly to this.
Yeah.
At the time. When I think about Toddy Tondera, I'm thinking about a fanny pack and a notebook, right? Like there are visual elements to everybody. And I just kind of showed up in whatever, and I didn't have anything. So I just then kind of thought to myself is, what if no matter what I was wearing, I had a tie? Mm-hmm. If it's a hoodie and a tie, for the Pirates opener this year, I did a Pirates jersey with the tie.
You did.
I've just done several kind of, visual gags with that. And then after I was doing that for a couple weeks, it was Toddy Tondera who had just come up with the idea of, we're going to start calling you professional. You're going to be professional Paul Michaels. So that was not the original plan. Like that was just something that got added in, and I was a huge fan of that. And just again, grateful to Toddy as I am on so many levels for just kind of being forward thinking and here's how we can advance you as a character and as a presence a little bit.
And I love Toddy for that too, because Toddy has given me so many great ideas as well. Like with Pittsburgh's favorite Jagoff, originally it was 880's most elite. Like a lot of that came from Toddy Tondera. So Toddy, if you're listening, thank you so much for everything that you've done for both of us. But I find it funny too, because when you started off this professional gimmick, you had a bit of a playbook as well. You had your own little playbook that you would go over in some of the matches. I know you still do some similar stuff too, where you obviously dissect what exactly is going to go on and what strategies each star should have. Kind of tell me about what that experience is like now with 880 Wrestling, because you started doing Taco Mania. Now you're here weekly, every single week at 880. It's a weekly show. It's the only weekly show in Pittsburgh. So what's that like? What's that experience? So
I do think that even though there's a lot of overlap between Enjoy and 880, I think that 880 is just so tremendously different in the sense that, it's a much more, I hesitate to use the phrase sports entertainment because I know that has kind of some connotations to it for some folks.
Yeah.
But the fact that 880 has live episodic weekly TV is huge. Like it's night and day difference, right? It's, a lot of the other companies in the area, they're running monthly or they're running quarterly or something to that effect. And, you're telling a story. If you're telling a year-long story, you might have anywhere from 4 to 12 episodes in order to do that. But in 880, it's more of the type of wrestling that I grew up with, right? Of weekly shows that are telling the stories throughout from a week-to-week basis, and then you're building to a large show toward the end of the month. And that's something that I think kind of allowed me to also experiment a little bit with more of the storytelling aspect. I think when you talk about companies like Enjoy, yes, there are storylines, and some of the best stories that they have are phenomenal stories. But I also feel like when I do things like Taco Mania, I do think it was much more focused on the action because the frequency just is not there to build the stories in the same way that 880 does. Not necessarily in a better or worse way, but just, a company that runs its main shows quarterly is completely different than a company running weekly with then a major monthly. So I think that it allowed me, being an 880, to kind of experiment with a little bit more character stuff as opposed to just going in and saying, I'm going to focus strictly on the matches and what's happening. We can tell stories beyond the ring. And when we do that at 880, I feel.
And we do a really good job with that too. And I must ask, because I like to ask everybody this, now that you have been at 880 Wrestling for quite some time, you've seen a lot of stuff with me, with other wrestlers, with Toddy. What's your thoughts on the current landscape overall of 880 Wrestling? What's your thoughts on, I guess, Dead Hand running around still? We have a new 880 champion in BSJ. We have a new hardcore champion in KC Ward. What do you think about the entire roster overall right now?
Well, I think the landscape overall is probably made better by way of you getting banned from shows. I think that's pretty cool.
Really? We're going there?
So, obviously you will not be part of the upcoming Pittsburgh versus Canada event. And I am excited to take that ball that you dropped, and I am going to run full speed to the goal line with that ball, and I am going to score a touchdown, the likes of which 880 Wrestling has never seen.
Okay, so you're really going there. So I'm not the only one banned from that show, right? Toddy is too. Like, do you even have somebody to replace me and Toddy? Is it just going to be you calling the show the whole time?
No, Eamon is going to be calling the show.
Eamon is now.
Eamon is a consummate professional. Eamon is someone who had my back when you had neglected to get me on this podcast.
No.
I very specifically recall a promo that you and Eamon shot where you mentioned that you had the entire 880 broadcast team on, and it was Eamon and Eamon alone who said, what about Paul?
Yeah, I didn't know which Paul he was talking about at first either. I thought he was talking about like Paul Bear, Paul Heyman. What was the other one? Paul Blart Mall Cop?
Yes,
all the Pauls.
Known 880 Wrestling commodity, Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just going through all the Pauls that I happen to know at the top of my head. I mean, I could have said like Paul White, another version of Big Show, but like, you're right, Paul Michaels, you're here now. That's all that matters. You're here now in studio. We're making it happen. Aren't we cool now? We're cool?
Of course. No. In all seriousness, when it comes to the landscape of 880 Wrestling, I do really feel like we are hitting a stride. I think that in talking in other people that are involved, I know, for a long time, I think, for better or for worse, 880 was kind of, was considered, these are student shows, right? Like these are students of the school, and we have Thursday night fights. I think even the website said something to that effect. It was like, Thursday night fights is kind of a beacon to get students in front of a live crowd and get experience wrestling in front of live crowds. But I honestly think that it's become a show that, in my opinion, I would put up against, any other independent wrestling show at that level. Like, I think it's time to stop thinking about 880 and Thursday night fights as student shows. Maybe we're already doing that for all I know, but I think, I would put this up against, any independent wrestling programming of the same size.
I fully agree with you on that too, because here's the thing. I mean, as someone who's doing work with other companies as well that is monthly shows, and as someone who's done work with other companies even in other promotions and in like other countries with Canadian Deathmatch and Hybrid, it's so cool seeing how 880 breaks that standard of, oh yeah, we're just the NXT of Pittsburgh Wrestling. No, they're not the NXT of Pittsburgh Wrestling. They're their own standalone position that could go head to head with any other company on any given Saturday, any given Thursday, any given Friday. They're right there. I wouldn't say they're the standard of Pittsburgh, but they're damn sure not a student school anymore. No way.
Certainly, and I think a big testament to that is just the people who are part of 880 Wrestling, that they branch out into other promotions, other areas. They make the town, so to speak, but they always come back home. They always stick around in 880, and they continue to be part of the show, part of the storylines, and they continue to make the show better. So it's very clear to me it's not somewhere that people are looking to use as a stepping stone to get exposure and then move on. It's like there's so many people that, I think are great, that are doing all kinds of great work. Like Fourth Line as one example, are still such a big part of 880 Wrestling, and come back and make that show better. And now with Brandon St. James as, the face of the company, as the 880 champion, I think that's phenomenal. And I think it's just a testament to the environment that is fostered there, that I'm just thrilled every single week to be a part of.
You mentioned fourth line, and I'm glad you did because Casey, Warren, Brand, St. James, two of the wrestlers that I am the closest with backstage there. Is there maybe some other wrestlers that are standing out to you right now at 880 Wrestling? Because there is a lot of guys that's making their rounds now, making different towns, winning different titles in different promotions. If this is like someone's first time ever listening to our podcast and have never watched 880, who are some guys that Paul Michaels would say to look out for?
So I'm hesitant to do this because I know that there are going to be names that I don't mention that I absolutely should.
That's why I put you on the spot.
But, of course, I think there's all kinds of different elements to this. I think you take somebody like GME, Gianni Michael Enrico. I think he is, I think he has an incredible look. He's extremely charismatic. The fans get behind him. He's doing everything everywhere, and he's doing it all different types of ways. He's going to places, and he goes to 880, and he's one of the top baby faces in the company. He's a dastardly Italian heel over in Joy. I think over in RWA, he just recently flipped from heel to face, and now has a face run over there. He's the VCW champion. Yep. There's just a lot going on with Gianni. I'm a huge fan, both in and out of character, of the Leaders by Example. I think that some guy named John on the microphone is unmatched in terms of the 880 roster. I think they're just phenomenal, and they are two extremely selfless individuals who I can tell when they come in, their goal is always to make the show better. Sometimes it is at their own expense. Like, I have watched them do some fantastic things that have helped other wrestlers as well. On that roster. As far as people on the up and up, new faces, I would be remiss if I did not mention Gunnar Bergman.
Okay, I was waiting for it.
Who is an extremely close personal friend of mine that we went to college together back a decade and a half ago, back at Waynesburg, where I'm a graduate of that Department of Communication. I know that Waynesburg and Point Park are
like
kind of two. Yeah, there are two of them. So what we have in common of Arizona Cardinals fandom, we're kind of on opposite ends of the greater Pittsburgh area communication civil war.
That's true. I think us both having Daniel Bryan as our favorite wrestler of all time also makes us a little more equal. So I don't know. Maybe it blurs the line there.
That does help. But, kind of to that end, I think it's interesting. I know I'm kind of getting away from what your actual question was about 880 folks.
That is great.
But I do think that, getting to commentary and being part of, the greater group of the broadcast team, it's very interesting because I feel very connected to both you and to Toddy in very different ways. So for you, obviously what we have in common is that formal sports broadcasting education and background. And even though mine was a number of years ago, I find that very relatable. I think, I hear some of the stuff that you're doing at 22, and I remember doing or hoping to do that type of stuff. And I really think that, you have a great attitude in terms of let's throw everything at the wall, and we know some things will stick and we know some things won't. Let's do that.
Thank you.
With Toddy, Toddy and I are basically the same age. We're just a few months apart. So I think our journeys as professional wrestling fans have been very similar. So we have a lot of the same wrestling memories that happened at the exact same time in our lives. So I find Toddy very, very relatable in that respect. And then of course, Eamon is just a true pro. Eamon is so well traveled. And that's something that I really respect in terms of Eamon, just an absolute professional. But it's very interesting how, I think I have a positive dynamic with everybody, but at the same time, it's all very different.
Mm-hmm. Is there maybe a wrestler or two? Because there's so many names you probably could have mentioned on that roster. I mean, some of the names that come to mind for me. I mean, I loved what Psychedelic Dreams is doing. The Department of Jocks. There are so many names to honestly, none of your answers was wrong. John, I mean, that could have been a different answer, but I respect what you said of him. So if I have to peel back the curtain for a second, yes, I respect John in that regard. So
Yeah, see, you have to. The number one rule of being a professional
is being unbiased. I know.
is being unbiased and not letting your personal. It's okay to have personal feelings about someone like some guy named John, and I understand your personal feelings when it comes to some guy named John, because I mean he did attack you. That is a thing that happens. So I understand that, but at the same time, that doesn't just take his abilities away.
No, it doesn't. But like Paul, like he just came down to my school and slapped me across the face in front of all my peers. And then, I mean, thank God I made a phone call that day, and I had I had an insurance policy with me. But still, like, you can't do that.
Hey, when I was a 22-year-old broadcasting senior, I wished someone would have come knock me down a peg.
Really?
Maybe it's what you needed.
So you're saying at 22 years old at Waynesburg, you wish an independent wrestler would come up to you on stage while you're hosting a show with your parents sitting in the front row and have him just go boom right across the face?
I'm not saying I would wish for that specific thing to happen.
But that's what happened, Paul.
But I'm just saying sometimes we get in our own heads a little bit and we just need a little reality check.
That's fair.
That's the form that yours came in. Maybe mine came in a different form. Maybe
I guess. Well, John ended up losing anyway because we had an impromptu 880 hardcore title match, which was absolutely insane that Point Park even allowed me to do that. So thank you, Point Park, if you're listening. Thank you. Do you think Waynesburg would let that happen?
I'm going to say no.
No, you don't think Waynesburg?
I don't think so.
You don't think Waynesburg would go that far?
Can't say that.
So you went to Waynesburg, obviously you mentioned before, and I know you also have a broadcasting career outside of professional wrestling. Do you mind speaking a little bit on that? I know you do some stuff with high school sports. Kind of fill us in on what exactly you've covered over the years.
Yeah, so my junior, or the summer in between my junior and my senior year at Waynesburg, I had done my summer internship, and I interned at the commercial radio station in Waynesburg, WANB. And I was interning there, just kind of doing a little bit of everything. Like I was doing remote broadcasts. We cover the Greene County Fair down in Waynesburg. Waynesburg has a big event called Rain Day. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
I'm not, no.
So every July 29th in Waynesburg is called Rain Day. And the origin of this is I'm going to mess up the story, but there was a member of the community. I can't recall if he was a farmer or the specific background, maybe not super relevant to the story. I believe it was his birthday or a family member's birthday was July 29th, and he noticed that it always rained on July 29th. So they have a big festival in, like, I guess what you would classify as downtown Waynesburg. It's basically like a big carnival. They have like live music, they do things, and then every year they record at what time of day it rains. And it has legitimately rained like 98 to 99% of the year. So they always get like a local celebrity or regional celebrity. They do something called a hat bet, where that person will bet their hat that it will not rain on rain day. And then when rain is recorded on that day, like they lose their hat. And there's like a museum of like all these hats that have been acquired over the years from all of these local celebrities. So as part of the like my internship, like we did a remote broadcast on the 29th on rain day. Like we did all of that. And very similarly to my experience at Enjoy Wrestling, if I go back 15 years, 16 years now, the story of me becoming a sports broadcaster for a commercial radio station is kind of also a falling upwards, right place, right time kind of story, because they had a team in place for high school football. They do high school football, the full season. And this was back in 2010. So think about, you don't have to think about how old you were, because we don't need to get into the whole like ageism bits that I do with you on a weekly basis. But the team that had been doing high school football at that station had decided they wanted to start an online sports streaming service. And so they ended up departing from the station, and there was just an opening. The station wanted to continue doing high school football coverage on terrestrial radio, and my best friend at the program, who was a senior and I was a junior. Technically, he was a graduate at the time, and then I was going to be an incoming senior. We were, asked if we were available to be the new team for high school football. So I was technically about to be a senior in college, and I had already had a gig at the local radio station, like a paid gig doing the high school football season. So that was back in 2010. I had done that for a number of years, and then I moved into Pittsburgh proper, and due to some changes in my day job and stuff, there were quite a few years that I had not done that. And then basically there was another opening with my original partner, and he had texted me, this was maybe about four or 5 years ago, to ask me if I wanted to come back. And I had moved out of the city. I'm down in Canonsburg now, so it's not too significant of a hike to Waynesburg for those, and so I got back in. So I've been doing that. I've been back doing that for the last, I think, like 3 or 4 seasons after I had I thought I was done, and then it just kind of came clawing back and said, "Hey, you want to try this out?" So. But yeah, post college, it's basically just been the high school football gig. Now, when I was in college, we have a college run radio station, a college run TV station. I had done some basketball stuff. I had done some PA announcing for baseball and for basketball. I did radio and TV announcing for basketball. I did one wrestling event. I did the President's Athletic Conference Wrestling Championships were at Waynesburg, so we had kind of rights of first refusal to cover it locally. So I had done that, and that was a bit of a crash course with the athletic director. That we had kind of just gone in, and he's showing me, like, these are different. I was not super familiar with amateur wrestling and was probably ill prepared to commentate it. Thankfully, they put me on the radio, so I could also just fake it a little bit. Like, if I wasn't exactly sure what was happening, like, nobody's gonna know.
Fake
like,
it, make it.
Nobody's seeing it. So, like, if I just call everything a single leg takedown or double leg takedown, like, who's gonna know other than, like, these are champion level wrestlers and maybe they're being a little one dimensional.
I love that. So would you say, outside of professional wrestling, what would be the favorite sport that you've called or at least been a part of, or broadcasting gig that you've had?
Football is definitely something that I enjoy the most. It's very interesting that, like, even though I'm new to the pro wrestling umbrella, like, I think there have always been pro wrestling elements in how I approach calling high school and college sports. So as part of the high school football stuff, we do a full 30-minute like studio pregame show beforehand to kind of talk about the teams. In Waynesburg there are 5 different high schools, so it's a rotating schedule among the different high schools. So we also kind of recap all of the area's games. We do stuff like that. But I'm always, very similar to wrestling. When I look at a game that we're going to do on a Friday night, I'm thinking about, okay, what's the story here? Like, what's the storyline? Are there playoff implications? Are there coaching implications? Again, in a local area like that, like, assistant coaches jump around, like, things happen. Always kind of looking for the story in there. Like, it is very interesting doing high school sports though too, because I think that at the end of the day, especially when it comes to the athletes themselves, like, most of them are literally children, right? Like, you can't be a full, like, unbiased journalist, and, like, you can't, rag on a 15 or 16-year-old kid for making a bad throw into double coverage, right? There's, like, so much of, like, you don't know if, like, an uncle or a grandmother or is, who can't make it to the stadium is listening. So it's always about, I kind of view that as more of a public service almost, as opposed to journalism, right? Like, I have to kind of go in and I want to just kind of be uplifting to everybody. Whereas, like, with pro wrestling, like, I can say horrible things about the people that I actually like, because in certain situations, like, it tells a story and it makes the show better. So that's something that's kind of been an adjustment for me is being able to tackle it that way and, like, not worry about being protective of of feelings because it's also not real.
Yeah.
Like I can call Casey War, a selfish human bullying his way into championship matches. And then like I can get off headset and I can shake his hand because we know that we're just telling a story together in our own way.
Of course. And also none of those things are true about KC on curtain or in front of the curtain or behind the curtain.
Sure. Well, I think that,
Sure.
I think when you talk about pro wrestling commentators and there's certainly there's a level of delusion that can be entertaining, right? Like I think, it's not always necessarily about believing everything you say, but then thinking about like, sometimes the absurdity is what makes something entertaining, and it's the fact that it's blatantly not true.
Okay, I see the lines that you're blurring here. I
Yeah.
think okay. I guess I can kind of agree with you. But the one thing that you did mention that I actually wanted to point out was when you said that you build other broadcasts like it's a wrestling broadcast.
Yes.
Which I absolutely love because I do the exact same thing. And I actually follow the same recipe that a lot of wrestlers use to put their matches together. Shine, heat, cut off, comeback, finish. That's literally how I build every broadcast that I can, because obviously you're going to want to shine up the talent. You're going to want to shine up who's playing on the field, what coaches are, what the stipulation is, who's going to win this. Oh, well, if they win this game, they're going to go to the playoffs. But if this team wins this, they have a chance at the conference championship. Like, there's always some implications you could build up there. And then the heat of it, obviously, you're telling your stories about the wrestler. Oh, well, 16-year-old Johnny Smith was originally a soccer player, but then he transferred into playing baseball, and now he's an all-star at the football team. So there's always so many different like little stories that you can tell within a big story. And I feel like telling a story makes the broadcast sound so much more watchable and listenable, if that makes sense, because I don't even know if listenable is a word. That's not a word, is it?
It is now.
It is now? Okay, well, it's now a word. I'm tired. I've had a long 3 days. But it is much more watchable, and the thing is, too, like, I don't want to listen to a broadcast where the same broadcast is just going, takedown, headlock. Oh, here's a power slam. Oh, here's this. Oh, here's that. It's like, okay, cool. I can tell myself that. Like, why are they doing this? Oh, what a thunderous move there. Or, oh, what an amazing pass. Like, that's what adds more to the broadcast. And when you pointed that out, I just wanted to say I fully agree with you on that.
And to me, I also think something that you mentioned there, to me, is also just, it's sportscasting 101 to a certain element of a big difference that I had to really adjust with in terms of transitioning from high school football to professional wrestling is that I'm doing high school football for a radio station.
Yeah.
So I am responsible for being the eyes. So it is important to know what yard line they are lined up at, how far the pass is, what the gain is, who made the stop, because they don't have that visual aid, right? In professional wrestling or with any other TV broadcast, like I did, I did Division III, Waynesburg University football for the TV station. It was very different. It's the difference between saying, hands off to the running back, burst forward for a 3-yard gain, versus just saying the running back's name because the picture is telling the story of him going up the middle for a 3-yard gain, right? So to that end, it's, people can see the moves. People can see what's happening. And to me, it's trying to tie the bow on it a little bit. And it's very interesting because I think it's something that, I was very passionate about, kind of thinking about, what my place is in all of this. I know, to peel the curtain back a little bit more, we have these, the production meetings. We talk about, at 880, the Toddy had a line. I remember the first time I heard it I was maybe a month in or maybe just a couple weeks in, when Toddy would distinguish between, the lead announcer and the associate announcer. And the Toddy's big thing was the lead calls the pinfalls. Mm-hmm. I remember thinking, okay, that's an important distinction. But then, not that I think that it's a problem, but there was definitely a part of me that hears that and says, what if we challenged that a little bit? What if we tried to do something a little bit different? Mm-hmm. Like 880 is a place where like we can throw stuff at the wall and see if it sticks or not, right? Like, so, and I know that, in the situation with you and Toddy, and, I think you're also an aspiring play-by-play broadcaster, right? So there's kind of, to some degree, like an overlap, I think, between Toddy and you and kind of what you want to do. And I just remember thinking about, if, to use a baseball analogy, because we've done a lot of football talk, but I want to drop a little baseball analogy, right? Is if you have, all through high school, all through college, you play center field, and you get drafted to a team, and there's a perennial all-star in center field, and there is a, high-level AAA player waiting to come up as the heir apparent. And now you've got a log jam in center field. Sometimes the best thing for you and for the organization is, let's try me in left. Let's see how that works. Because maybe there's more of a need in left than there is in center. And maybe playing left gets me on the field more and in more meaningful situations. So I remember kind of thinking of, even though I have a sports play-by-play background, what if we tried to build a different dynamic? Because when you ask any longtime wrestling fan or like a historian of wrestling, who are the best commentary duos in wrestling? People my age are typically going to say Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, or they will say Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. I think as we get later, I think people will say like Michael Cole and Corey Graves is one people will talk about. But to me, the big thing that kind of makes all of those teams unique is they have a dynamic where I think, the color commentator is almost somewhat of a foil to the play-by-play broadcaster, or the straight man as it were.
Yeah.
And it's always kind of showing an imbalance of, I think in 880 we've kind of just done a thing where there hadn't really been a heel leaning announcer. Every time the heels do something, it's the worst thing that's ever happened. Every time the baby faces do something, like, we're celebrating, we're happy about it. And when I was also thinking about it from the lens of, as someone who is an outsider that has 15 years of sports broadcasting experience, who is we're positioning someone like amateur wrestler Reese Hayes as like the evil boss almost. And it's like, what's he doing that's evil? Well, he's instituting rankings. He's doing this, he's doing this home run tournament. He's holding the hardcore championship hostage and calling it the pure wrestling championship. And I remember thinking, well, somebody with a 15-year sports broadcasting background who's new to wrestling should like all of these things, right? I don't think I should hate these things. Like, I think I should be kind of an advocate for some of the things that Reese is doing. And I remember, I believe that it was a buy-in for it might have been for Unholy Holiday, I want to say, that I talked to Toddy and I kind of pulled you aside too, and I kind of explained those things to you. And I mean, you would seem to be pretty on board with it too. And I think it was a battle royal for a pure championship match, and it was just super chaotic. And we basically agreed to do all of that, and then we didn't do any of it because there was just so much action happening. But I wanted to kind of keep that in my back pocket. And then I believe we were on together for a Reese Hayes pure championship match, I believe it was. And I think I remember pulling you aside and saying, hey, I think I want to try some of this stuff. I think I want to try to be like a Reese Hayes sympathizer a little bit. And then I think it built kind of a different dynamic between the two of us. And I felt like I was acting as more of a foil to you in that regard. And it's just like, I don't necessarily know if we have a rotation of 3 people, like maybe each team should feel a little bit unique, right? I think the group that what you and Toddy bring to the table versus the dynamic between Toddy and me, and the dynamic between you and me. I think let's try to have everything feel a little bit unique, so then we can have kind of more purpose for who goes where and when. It seems like it's working okay. I don't know. So. I don't have I don't get a ton of feedback on it, but nobody's told me to stop yet, so I guess there's that.
That's how I've learned. If no one's told you to stop or no one's told you to change, then you must be doing something right. That's what I've learned over the years. But it's funny you bring that up, actually, because peel back the curtain even more, Corey Graves is my professor, which I've talked about many times on this podcast. It's
Sure.
really not peeling back the curtain too much. But one of the things that he talked about in our class was blurring the lines of a broadcasting team, because like Toddy said, Toddy's 100% right. Like, the play-by-play guy is supposed to call the finishes and talk during the entrances. But
Sure.
what Corey brought up in his class was, yeah, Michael Cole is that guy. Michael Cole is the one that throws at the commercial break, is the one that talks to build the entrances and shine everybody up when they're coming out to the ring. But Corey now has been doing play-by-play for AAA and even had a short run on SmackDown doing play-by-play just because of commentator changes, that he even said that now when he's on Raw with Michael Cole full time, sometimes if they're in the earpiece about to go to commercial and Corey's still in the middle of a thought, Cole will just signal to him and say, hey, you throw it to commercial, or hey, you throw it to the package, or hey, you call the finish if like I'm being told something in my ear. So it's cool knowing that, and all the ways up in WWE where the Corey Graves and Michael Cole is calling matches, they're able to bounce off each other in a different way. And then over at 880 Wrestling with me, you, and Toddy, we have our own unique way of bouncing off each other, because like you said, me and you, yeah, we might butt heads a little bit. We may disagree on some stuff. You'll challenge me on some of my ideas. I'll challenge you on some of your ideas. Then you and Toddy, it's also like that unique duo. Me and Toddy's kind of like, oh yeah, everybody, all the heels, boo, all the faces, yeah. So everybody has their own unique style. And when Eamon comes in too, I mean, even Eamon adds an element to the commentary team as well when he's bouncing off ring announcing. So I think right now the commentary team is in very good hands. Very good hands.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I'm just so thrilled to be a part of it. You know, don't get a big head when I bring this up, but you know, I will say, like, because again, to kind of talk about me getting into 880. You know, so I did Taco Mania. It was in August, and you know, that was a huge thing for me. It was like, check that off. You know, I don't know if it's going to lead to anything. If it does, it does. Like, if not, in some way, like, I've lived a childhood dream by being on commentary for a pro wrestling event. But I remember when, you know, I was like several weeks into high school football, and I was like, man, I miss wrestling. Like, I miss wrestling so much, and I had such a great time with Toddy, and we talked about doing, you know, Toddy talked to me about 880 and the stuff going on there. I started watching the product. And I remember the event was MV Young's Harvest Moon. And it was when Marco Narciso turned on Blizzy Blake at the end of the show. And I just remember thinking, oh, this is awesome. Like, I have to be part of this. Like, I can't not just sit on the sidelines and do this. So as the season was wrapping up, I had reached out to Toddy via DM and said, hey, I would love to get involved with 880 Wrestling in whatever capacity that there is. And, you know, Toddy has been such a constant for 880, has been there since the very beginning. I think at one point was doing solo commentary, and it's, you know, is absolutely zero disrespect intended to anybody that was there, but there's been somewhat of a revolving door over the last, you know, 4 years of 880 Wrestling as far as who is, you know, the color commentator over there. The big concern that I had was I didn't know how you would feel about me coming in. Mm-hmm. Because to me, I was initially just very concerned that you would feel, because again, I've been a 22-year-old like sports broadcasting college senior before, and like I get sometimes feeling chopped at the knees. It was very important for me that you did not feel like I was chopping you at the knees by coming in and taking away reps from you as you are also pursuing your dream in the same vein. Now, I will say, and I will give Toddy a ton of credit for this as well, I would argue that the way that we have it structured, I actually think that in some ways you've had more opportunity to grow by me being there. And I don't take credit for that, but it's a situation where I think sometimes when Toddy will sit out, it'll give you the opportunity to be in that lead role more. Whereas Toddy was predominantly in that lead role when it was just the two of you. Mm-hmm. I think we also can afford to have things happen like, you know, you get DDT'd in the center of the ring and miss the rest of the show because now we have two people that can pick that up. Mm-hmm. So, you know, but I am grateful that at the very beginning, I think, you know, you were very kind and respectful to me behind the scenes. And if you were worried about your spot, you never conveyed that to me in any kind of way. So I'm genuinely grateful for that.
Well, thank you. No, I really appreciate that. And I will tell you even this live right now, I have never once felt like you were taking an opportunity from me, overstepping me, chopping me at the knee. None of that whatsoever. Because when you first came in, I remembered you from Enjoy, obviously. I mean, I may or may not have been a little hammered that day because I was with Kevin and it was Taco Mania. There was Miller Lights. I'm just going to say it right now.
I understand.
But
I behave at Taco Manias, though, because I'm working.
Well, you were I was not working. I was not working. I've never drank when I've done commentary, and that's not going to happen. But if I'm not, that's a different story. But anyway, I will say that whenever you came in the door there, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. This is another opportunity. And then when me and you started to talk a little bit more, I knew you were going to bring that more of like a heelish perspective, just like right away from the get-go of us talking. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see like there's a little bit of an edge whenever you come on the broadcast. And obviously you were still building up the professional gimmick at the time. Now you're more settled as professional Paul Michaels. So I was like, I like this because it's going to challenge my ideas more. And like you said, it gives me many opportunities to do other things outside of commentary. Like a lot of the in-ring segments that I've done so far, the interviews, those would have been possible if there wasn't a second person to be at the commentator's desk with Toddy. And as someone who is passionate about commentary and as someone who wants to pursue that full time, I also want to try other aspects of it. Like I would love to do more of the in-ring journalism stuff. I would love to have like more segments of my own in the ring. Maybe even help out a wrestler or two, even be involved in a match every once in a while. Like I would love to try and do that stuff. And if it wasn't for you being on the team, Paul, I don't know if I would be able to be honest with you. So I'm very grateful that you're here as well.
So yeah, and I love grateful. That, and I continue to just be so grateful to folks like Toddy too, because again with you and Toddy, you know, kind of hitting your stride as a duo, like I'm very aware that it was not necessary to make room for me. Mm-hmm. Like I very much acknowledge that. And I'm grateful every single week, and I'm still at the point now, and maybe this will never go away, but I always just, when I come back from the big monthly event that we have, it's always very difficult for me to get to sleep when I get home, because it's just like, I always have that time where I just kind of sit and I'm very self-reflective of like, I can't believe this is real. Like, I can't believe that I am part of something so cool. And like I stand, whether I'm on commentary or, kind of waiting to come in and I'm back in production, watching the matches, watching the entrances, watching the whole show come together, and just think, I would think this is so freaking cool, even if I was not part of it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I get to be part of it is just complete icing on the cake. And just the community that we have both in and out of production. The wrestlers are so great. So encouraging. I have met so many cool people already in the 6 months that I've been part of 880. I continue to meet just more awesome people, and I'm just thrilled to be here, and I'm grateful that there is a spot for me, and that it's something I'm going to continue to do until either I make the decision or somebody else makes the decision for me that it's not going to be a thing anymore.
Well, I will say this, and this will be the last thing I say about this, and I'm definitely not going to say this on Thursday, so this is the only time you're going to hear this, Paul. I do apologize in advance. We are very grateful to have you on the team, and I'm very much looking forward to calling wrestling with you every single week, so thank you for those opportunities.
It is mutual, but I prefer you not clip this particular part.
No, this would not be clipped.
Like, it can be part of the full interview, but this should not be a clip. I think we should keep this one kind of under wraps unless people watch the whole episode.
Yeah, if you're listening right now and you're hearing this, do not clip it. Leave it here. Leave it in this episode. We want it to be lost.
I even like him.
I tolerate him. Strongly tolerate.
See, now I regret being vulnerable.
All right, well, one thing we do agree on, and I've been waiting to talk about this all episode. I see the hoodie you're wearing, Paul.
This is for you, baby.
Tell me the story, man. Because here's the thing. I told you why I'm a Cardinals fan. I'm Larry Fitzgerald guy all the way. I've been a Pitt fan my entire life and season ticket holder with my dad. So I've literally grew up watching the Cardinals because I could care less about the Steelers because of my dad's hatred for them. And my dad's a Chiefs fan, and I could care less about the Chiefs because of his strong passion for them. So that's what led me to being a Cardinals fan. What led you to being a Cardinals fan?
Well, it's me, so this is going to be a little bit long-winded. I'll try to keep it as concise as I can.
Okay.
But very similar to my name, there are layers to it. So I've always kind of enjoyed the Cardinals, basically from the time that I had been, able to kind of understand and watch football, even when they weren't necessarily my team. so to speak. I'm a big gamer as well, and I remember when I really first started to get into Madden was Madden 04, the one with Michael Vick on the cover, where he's basically a cheat code. I don't think you probably weren't even talking when Madden 04 came out.
I was one.
Yeah. So the Cardinals were the worst team in the game. And that's the game that's the Madden I started really spending the most time with, other than just like junior high, like sleepover tournaments and stuff. But like I was like really zoned in on Madden 04. The Cardinals were on paper the worst team in the game. So it was always something that was fun to me to like play a franchise mode, take the Cardinals and make them, try to go worst to first with the worst team, kind of as like a challenge run, so to speak. So it kind of had given me an appreciation for them, kind of long before that. But I grew up in Southeast Ohio, so I'm a Pittsburgh transplant. But even though I'm from Southeast Ohio, it's very much Steelers country. Like I'm like an hour. I grew up about like an hour and 45 minutes from Pittsburgh, closer than I am to Cleveland or Cincinnati. So it was still very much Steelers country. I didn't really go like all in on the Steelers fandom because I think it was kind of even bothering me at the time, like the Southeast Ohio version of Yinzers, who wouldn't like say things like we're the best, we're the best 8-8 team in the league or whatever, like just that sort of level of stuff, just being like, hey, some years we're just bad and it's okay to say that we're bad. I wasn't really fully bought into some of that stuff. So I remember one of my biggest like Steeler memories though is watching Super Bowl 40, which was the Steelers and the Seahawks. And I remember the big memories that I have of that Super Bowl are just basically I was very enthralled by the offensive play calling, like the Antoine Randall touchdown pass to Hines Ward. Kind of like the gadget plays and the kind of stuff that I felt like really gave the Steelers the edge in bringing a Super Bowl back to Pittsburgh. And I remember just becoming a huge fan of Ken Wisenhunt and the offense that he was running in Pittsburgh. Also, one of my all-time favorite quarterbacks growing up was Kurt Warner, as somebody that I had a tremendous respect for. I loved the Kurt Warner story of like, I'm bagging groceries and now I'm I'm a MVP caliber quarterback. And also, as I continued to get into sports, I was kind of a bit of a USC bandwagoner as well. Mm-hmm. So there was kind of a perfect storm where the Cardinals had signed Kurt Warner in free agency after his year from the Giants. That would have been in 2005. I remember thinking, I'm pulling for them even more now. Like I had the video game thing, I'm pulling for them even more. Then in 2006, they drafted Matt Leinart as the heir apparent to Kurt Warner. So now it's like my favorite college quarterback and one of my favorite NFL quarterbacks are on the same team. And then when Bill Cowher stepped down from the Steelers and they hired Mike Tomlin as coach, there were a lot of people that were, of course, upset about that at the time because I feel like what people perceived to be the Steeler way was those like internal hires, like a Russ Grimm who was there. Or I was pulling for Ken Wisenhunt, of course, to be the head coach of the Steelers. But then Ken Wisenhunt did not get selected to be the head coach of the Steelers, and he became the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Yep. And it was just a very perfect storm right about the time that I got out of high school, that it was like, okay, they've got Kurt Warner, they've got Matt Leinart. I have a huge respect for Larry Fitzgerald as a player as well. He's already there also. And now the guy who I thought should have been the heir apparent to Bill Cowher is now coaching this team. And I was like, I'm all in. Like this is my NFL team now. So it's something that happened basically like right before my freshman year of college, where I was like, this is the team. And despite the fact that none of those connections are relevant anymore, I mean, Ken Wisenhunt hasn't been the coach for over a decade. Kurt Warner's long been retired, and Matt Leinart was never a significant part of Cardinals history to any extent. I've stuck around. I've been with the team for through bad and more bad and a Super Bowl loss and then even more bad.
One of the worst Super Bowl losses of all time. What was I, like 7 at the time, I think? I don't even remember.
Yeah, I was in college, and that was my first real experience, I think, with being a heel. Because I was healing it up on campus all week. Like, I was wearing Cardinal stuff every single day, like going into stuff. The Super Bowl party that I had gone to was all Steelers fans and then me. And when Larry Fitzgerald caught that slant route and took it to the house to give them the early lead, and then where we probably should have just stopped the count at that point, I remember like fearing for my safety for several seconds because like I was jumping up and down, I was cheering, and everybody was just like standing there looking at me in stunned silence because I was just like, hey, I think my team's going to win the Super Bowl, and I'm the only one who thinks that's a good thing. So suddenly we got a big target on my chest. But then, yeah, we know what happened after that. And instead, you know, I still had a target on my chest, but it was just gloating and ridicule and all that. And, you know, people grabbing my laptop and changing my background to Santonio Holmes, catching the pass, and
I was going to say, were you there whenever the James Harrison 99-yard interception happened and the Holmes in the back of the end zone? Like, were you watching still at that place or no? Like with all those people there around?
Yeah,
they saw
I was there. Yeah, I watched the entirety of the game in the same dorm room, and it was all of that. And it was holding, by the way, on the Harrison interception return.
They won't say that though. What about the Holmes? I know a lot of people said it's not. He didn't catch it in bounds.
No, that's 100% a catch.
Okay, so you're on team catch there, but you're saying there's a hold on.
I'm not happy about it, but again, a true professional was always objective, and he did. It was a catch. It was the dagger.
It was the dagger that killed a lot of people.
Yeah, and the team has not been back since. I really thought 2015 was going to be a big year. The Carson Palmer year. Mm-hmm. A lot seemingly going the Cardinals' way. I would argue that the 2015 Cardinals team is probably better than the 09 Cardinals team, or rather the 08 team that actually made it to the Super Bowl.
I would agree. That was the year they got blown out by Carolina in the conference championship, right?
Yes. Yeah. Carolina was 15-1, and somehow not the most embarrassing playoff loss that the Cardinals have to the Panthers, because I would say that the Ryan Lindley game would be the worst Cardinals-Panthers memory that I have.
That's why your worst? What would you say your worst memory as a Cardinals fan overall is? Because boy, do I got a lot.
I think just the entire run of Ryan Lindley is it.
Not even the Josh Rosen 3-13 season?
So Josh Rosen, well, that's the other thing, is, again, as somebody who was a USC bandwagoner, I was very conflicted about Josh Rosen coming in to quarterback the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. So I was thrilled, actually, that it was a one-and-done situation. I didn't want Josh Rosen on the Cardinals. I was a big fan of the Cardinals going after Kyler Murray in the following draft. I bought 3 Kyler Murray jerseys before he started a game, before he appeared in a game. There's a photo that I had posted on my social media because I got the red Kyler Murray jersey, the white Kyler Murray, and then the black Kyler Murray jersey. I can go back and find that photo. I don't know if we do. Do we do the thing here where we put a picture up? Can we do that in post if I have the photo?
I mean, Lucas does it to me all the time. He makes me put Matt Hardy on the screen. So if
well, I think this is more important to me than Matt Hardy. There's just like the couch at my old house, and it just has 3 Kyler Murray jerseys.
If you send me the picture, I got you.
Okay.
All right, there it is.
I have to now.
It's right here. It's right here on the screen.
Yeah, see it?
Yeah, right here. That's majestic. Look at all those damn jerseys. How much you spent on those?
We don't want to talk. We don't want to get into the specifics.
Okay, that's fair, honestly. And then you can take it away now. See, that's the post-production magic right there from Austin Cairns. Did you know I actually used to do magic in high school? That's a fun fact that I don't tell too many people.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I used to do magic for the whole school.
What kind of magic?
Like card tricks.
Did you do card tricks? I have one card trick that I know. I wish we would have had a deck of cards.
I wish we did too. I used to carry one on me all the time, but I brought the suitcase today because I was all dressed up and I was trying to be fancy. But
I'll bring cards to Thursday and we can exchange tricks if you want. I have one. I just have one, and you probably have the same one, maybe.
I have 5.
But I don't know.
5.
I have one where you do like 3 columns of cards, and then you pick a card and you don't tell me what the card is, but you tell me which row it's in. And then
That's
take
one of
them
my 5.
together, and then
That's one of the 5. Yeah, because the way I do it is I guess we're gonna reveal magic tricks now.
Oh no!
You picked. Well, we're already doing it. We pick a card, 3 rows, like you said, right?
Yep.
And then you go through the whole deck, and you have like you know what the bottom card is that's going on top of it. Is that what you're talking about, or
So
how do you set yours up?
So the way that I do mine is I have 3 rows. I can't remember how many it is per. I think it's 3 rows of 7. So you take any 21 cards, and you do rows. You tell me what row the card is in. So then I will take and consolidate the rows back together. The row that your card is in goes in the middle, and then I will deal out 3 rows again. And then by the time we get to the 3rd time of you telling me which row it's in, I know which card it is, and then I deal the cards out in face down piles.
Okay.
And I tell you to pick piles. And then me knowing where the card is, I will either keep the piles that you picked or use your pick to take them away. I never tell you which is which. Mm-hmm. So the fact that I let you basically narrow it down face down to one card that happens to be your card.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, the way I do it is kind of similar. So like you pick a card, obviously. You take it, you don't look at it, show me, whatever. And before you could put it back in, I kind of take a peek at what the bottom card is on the bottom of the deck. So like I'll let you mix up if you want. The deck's not a gimmick deck or anything like that. And then I set the 3 piles up, and then you tell me where you put the card on which pile. So it doesn't matter like how many cards are in each pile, but like I know the bottom of the far right pile, I know what that bottom card is. So whenever I go to stack them back up, I'm putting that bottom card on top of your card. So then I'll go through the entire deck and I'll be like, all right, just so you know, I didn't do anything crazy. I'll even roll up my sleeves. Let me know if your card is in here at all. And I'll deal it out on the table. I'll go through the entire deck and I'll speed run it. And I know, like, let's just say the 9 of hearts is at the bottom and your card is the 2 of spades and it's right after. I would know when the 9 of hearts is there, the next card is yours. So I'll put your card out into a different pile, and then I'll actually spell out 2 of spades in another pile right next to it. So that when it's all said and done, I put the deck back together. I'm like, okay, I think I found your card. Is it this one? And I show it and it's not that one. And you're like, no, that's not my card. I'm like, oh, really? I could have sworn it was your card. And I'm like, all right, well, here, you take the deck. Let me work some magic. Boom. We're going to spell out 2 of spades. TWOOFSPADES. Next card is yours. Then you flip it up. It's 2 of spades. That's the way I do that.
That is so much more involved than mine is, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy though, but like it's cool too because like I give them full control over the deck. And so like the misdirection there is, oh, wait a minute, I mixed up the deck. Oh, I picked what pile it's in. I seen him go through the whole deck, so I know that my card is lost in there. Meanwhile, I'm doing psychological stuff behind the scenes with it.
I want to see that. I'm going to bring a deck of cards to Pittsburgh versus Canada on April 25th.
Wow. Thanks.
Oh, wait a second. No, wait, we can't do that. You're not going to be there.
Just bring it Thursday. Just bring it Thursday.
Are you allowed to be there Thursday?
I don't know. William Porter's not made that decision yet. I kind of pissed him off when I went to Canada. So, did you see the promo I cut in front of Niagara Falls?
No, I didn't see that one. I did see where you drove all the way to Canada to try and undercut me and get back in on commentary. No. William Porter was gracious enough to say, no, go away.
Yeah, and then they called me a stalker.
Why didn't you just talk to them when they were at Penn Brewery? Why did you drive all the way to Canada to have a confrontation that you could have walked 20 feet when we were at Thursday Night Fights last week?
Okay. First of all, I was on commentary for most of the night at the Penn Brewery. I called the main event match, which was Big Pound versus Brandon St. James for the 880 championship. We also had a TNF title match that night with Marco Narciso and Sammy Suntimer, and I don't remember the match before that, but there was a third. Oh, it was a number 1 contender tag title match with DOJ and ADN and Saturn Price. So I was on call for those 3 matches. So I was trying to make sure that I was fully in the loop with what was going on there. And on top of that, during our introductions, if you don't remember, you were sitting down, which is not professional. You should be standing up. That's the 880 way. And I see William Porter all the ways over on the far side booing me, which made me really mad. And I get angry pretty easy. I'm a jagoff. That's the whole name. 2 jagoffs. Pittsburgh's favorite jagoff. You know, I have a little bit of an edge to me sometimes. So I knew if I would have went and tried to confront William Porter, it would have came out wrong. And I wanted to be professional enough to be like, okay, this is not the right time and this is not the right place. And on top of all that, you were talking to William Porter during the main event. I saw you over there.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that in taking 4.5 hours to drive to Canada, you were adequately rehearsed? Because I feel like you went up there and then fell completely flat on your face.
Well, here's the thing. I was going up to Canada because I figured, okay, William Porter was going to be at Canadian Deathmatch, right? William Porter helps out behind the scenes and does stuff there. I happen to do commentary for Canadian Deathmatch, so I knew it was a one-way ticket for me to get in there, and I would have no stress of worrying about anything 880 related or none of my personal commentary, podcasting. I didn't have to worry about any of that up there. So I got in the car with Carl. We took a little road trip up to Canada. We made some stops in Buffalo, and I was hoping to get a yes. I was hoping to have like a nice dinner or a coffee or something to maybe chat some things through, and William Porter shut me down immediately. So I went to Niagara Falls and threw a temper tantrum, but that's okay. You should have saw the promo I cut on Niagara Falls. It was crazy. Their waterfall sucks, by the way. It's overrated. You know that, right? The waterfall sucks. The Maple Leafs are never going to win anything, and their maple syrup is the shittiest thing that I've ever put in my mouth. It is disgusting.
Niagara Falls, the Canadian side, is one of the best vacations I have ever had. So I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, guess what? My dad proposed to my mom there, and I still hate that waterfall. That waterfall sucks because you want to know what that waterfall reminds me of, Paul? That waterfall reminds me of me wasting 4.5 hours to go to Canada to be told no, and then come back another 4.5 hours with still the same answer.
Well, you never told me that Niagara Falls was essentially responsible for you existing. Now I might change my tone and not like it as much.
Oh, what? Damn, Paul. Big heel over here. Well, I would say this, Paul. I do greatly appreciate you for taking the time to come down here in studio, and I do apologize again for not having you on originally, but there is one last question I have for you.
Okay.
I asked this to everybody. I don't know how familiar you are with some of the interviews that I've done in the past, but I've asked this to every wrestler I've had on, every politician I've had on, every broadcaster that I've had on. So now I'm going to ask it to the true professional himself. Professional Paul Michaels, what is the go-to restaurant and why? Favorite place to grab a meal? It could be in Pittsburgh. It could be somewhere else. I'm a foodie. I want to hear it.
So my favorite place to go is a place called Big Fella's Pizza and Wings. It's in Canonsburg.
Okay.
So when I graduated from college, I had an apartment down in the Canonsburg area. My first job out of college was in South Point, so I lived down there. It's always my go-to place. I have never had better wings from anywhere than at Big Fella's. So if you're a wing person, Big Fella's is great. The pizza is really good too. They have some really solid calzones also. So I don't always get the same thing when I go there. It just depends. They have something kind of for every mood that I'm in. But it would be the point where even when I moved into the city, my wife was still, at the time, she was working down in the Canonsburg area, and sometimes would have to go get Big Fella's after work and bring it home. And then I remember when we moved back down to Canonsburg, one of the first things that was on my mind was like, I'm gonna be close to Big Fella's again. And in fact, when we went to view our house that we eventually bought that I live in now, as soon as we were done with viewing the house, we went and we had lunch at Big Fella's. Like it's a big thing. The bar that is attached to it, I have done many a karaoke performance in there as well.
You've
so
done
also,
karaoke.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're a singer too.
Singer. I do quite a bit of rap karaoke as well.
Oh, rap karaoke.
Yes.
Okay.
Big fan of my go-to karaoke song is "Jump" by Criss Cross.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good song. Yeah.
So yeah, so that is there. So back in my, early to mid 20s, that was also a go-to spot, not just for the wings.
Okay. Does that mean, so if you have a singing background, does that mean you can sing the Canadian and American national anthem for Pittsburgh versus Canada on the 25th? You can pull double duty that night?
I think I'm going to leave that to somebody else. I know a few people that would probably be much more capable of me than doing that, but no, don't think I'll be singing any.
You don't want to sing?
anthems
I mean, you could just do it like on the broadcast real quick. I don't think Eamon would mind. Eamon would let you do it. I mean, you stuck up to the Canadian guys anyway. You can sing their national anthem.
Nope, I think I'm good on that. I appreciate the offer, though, and I don't know how you're in any position to offer these things when you're not even allowed to be there.
Yeah, I know. Great.
Maybe you can stand outside and sing the national anthem since you're not allowed in the building.
I don't think I'm allowed anywhere near the property, so I don't even know if I could be outside. I think there's like a limit within how close I can be. I don't know what the rules are. I didn't even know Hybrid had say in this. I want to know who approved of this.
It's a collaborative event. That's the whole thing. Is like you had to turn it into some like weird like competition when we're celebrating the partnership between 880 Wrestling and Hybrid Championship Wrestling. It is a collaborative event for those two promotions, and you and Toddy both jeopardized that entire relationship with the bias that you showed on those broadcasts. I haven't really had a chance to tell you, my thoughts on this, but I told Toddy on commentary last week, as a sports broadcaster of over 15 years and an 880 wrestling broadcaster for 6 months, I like to think of myself as somewhat of a mentor to you and Toddy.
To us.
And I really feel like you made a poor business decision in your behavior during that Robbie Hollywood match against Aleo Dreams.
All right, well, first of all, poor business decision. You sound like Lucas now because Lucas makes business decisions on this podcast. Did you know he actually banned Toddy from this podcast? I'm not even allowed to have Toddy back on this podcast ever again.
To what extent do I have Lucas to thank for being here?
Well, Lucas did get on me the week after I had Eamon on because he reminded me of the promo because I made the same comments that I got the whole broadcasting team on. And
I've never met this man.
Okay.
How is he a bigger advocate for me than you?
He goes against everything I say just to get under my skin. So obviously he's going to side with you. He's not siding with you because he likes you. He's just siding with you because he doesn't like me. And he's my co-host. He's not even here right now. So, you can't take his side.
I don't know this guy. I'm not taking his side.
He's my co-host. It's Lucas, and yeah, he makes business decisions. He banned my old co-host, and he's banned Toddy, and he's been in a mood these last couple weeks. So I don't know. He's hitting me with chairs on this podcast before. He's put me through doors. He's beaten me to death. He's done it before, Paul.
I would never hit you, Austin.
I will
say we disagree on things, but I was one of the first people to come to your defense when you got attacked. You were verbally. I would not physically involve myself, but I did say that was a step too far.
You did.
That I don't always agree with you, but I don't like that we can just attack broadcasters whenever.
Yeah, and you had Clayton King on the broadcast with you for that too, which I apologize. That probably wasn't fun.
I was convinced that Clayton was in on it. Apparently, I was wrong.
Wow. So John just did that out of pure frustration, I guess.
I guess so. Clayton, to this day, says he had nothing to do with it.
Well, be that as it may, I guess, huh? Well, Paul, it was a true honor to have you on the podcast today. Thank you for coming on, sharing some of your stories, talking about some of your insight, and I guess opening up your playbook to an extent. Do you have any final words that you would like to leave with the listeners of Two Jagoffs or the fans of 880 Wrestling?
I just want everybody to know just how grateful I am again to be involved in all this. Much more than my television character would ever convey in any situation. It's just so amazing to be part of this. I love the community at 880 Wrestling, both in production, the roster, all of it. It's a dream come true every single week to be able to work with some awesome, super talented people. And, I'm so grateful for it. Check out the show in person at 829 Industry Street. Free shows every Thursday. Check out the IndieWrestling.us YouTube channel, and we will see what is next for 880 Wrestling. But I believe just for now, the professional is clocking out. How do I bill for this?
How do you bill?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Do I just DM you an invoice? Is there an email?
This isn't paid, Paul. This is just a podcast.
It's not paid?
No, this is like a phone call. We're talking. We're not. This. You're not getting paid, Paul. I'm sorry. I'm a broke college student. Do you think I could afford that?
Okay, I'll email Toddy and see what Toddy can do about this.
Oh, great. Here we got the emails again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that, of course, is professional Paul Michaels. I am Austin Cairns. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.